Today's luncheon is a panel discussion about the creativity and the arts in downtown Urbana. So there's a lot of arts happening in Urbana, there's a lot of business in Urbana, downtown Urbana, but there's also a lot of businesses that are kind of arts-based and arts-focused and do a lot of cool things in the arts community. So we thought we'd invite a couple of the newer businesses or newer people to the scene and kind of talk about all the things that are going on. So our moderator for today's event is Rachel Storm. She is the coordinator for the city's arts and culture program. We have Charlie Harris, who is one of the new co-owners of the Rose Bowl Tavern. So the Rose Bowl Tavern is, I don't know how old it is, but Charlie's new.
Charlie will tell us more.
Next to Charlie, we have Jesse Riddell from the Idea Store. Next to Jesse, and the Idea Store moved to Urbana in October 2018. Next to Jesse is Kevin Tanja. Tajay, sorry, I asked him right before and I butchered it. And Kevin is with the DOS Foundation that opened in the IMC in May of 2018? Spring of 2018. And then next to Kevin is Kate and Solia of the Urbana Dance Company, what opened in May of 2018, right? Yeah, May. Okay, September 4th, 2018. So you take a moment to welcome our guest, and then we'll get the discussion going.
Okay, so the way I'm going to structure the panel today is we have a few questions that we'll ask of each panelist. They've been instructed to keep their stories both riveting but also short. And then we will also move into a Q&A portion where you can ask them anything else you want to know. I'm sure we have many questions, but what I'd like to, of course, do to get us started is invite each and every one of them to give a short introduction to yourself, a little bit about your business, and anything else you'd like to share just as an introduction. And I'll start with you, Charlie.
So I've been a musician in town since I finished my education at the university in 2010, and somehow wound up as the owner of the Rose Bowl Tavern. And it's a music venue. It's a bar. That's the source of income, and then we're getting people in the door via live music, and that's the story over there.
Hi. So I've lived in Champaign-Urbana since 1992. I came here as a student and never left. And I've been an artist all my life, and a reuser and a mender, and but I was sidetracked by food for many years. And I worked in several management positions at Common Ground Food Co-op from 2006 to 2016. During that time, we moved from Springfield Avenue to Lincoln Square Mall. So I kind of feel a little bit of deja vu this year, since the Idea Store has also moved from Springfield Avenue to Lincoln Square Mall. The Idea Store is a nonprofit creative reuse center. We started in 2010 as a program of the CU Schools Foundation. We just became an independent nonprofit this year. We accept donations of items that you wouldn't ordinarily think of as things you donate to a thrift store, and resell them to artists and other community members, students, teachers, families, for their own purposes. So if you want to buy 10 pounds of bottle caps, we're your place. But also if you want to get your school supplies really cheap, we are also your place. If you want to start a new hobby or you're an artist and creator, you can do that in a very inexpensive, easy way by coming to the Idea Store.
Okay, let's see. I've been in the area almost 10 years now. I'm a professional actor. During the day, I work at District 116 in the special education department at the high school. And I came to acting by way of music. I was doing music in movies that were being nationally released and whatnot. And then I had a conversation with an actor that I admired, and he said, just do it. So for the last 5 years, I've been acting professionally from Los Angeles to here, and been to New York as recently as last year. And so DOS Foundation, Dreams Orchestrated Simply by Effort, is an organization that is geared towards ensuring that the theater community becomes a better mirror to the world in which we live. And we do that by creating educational programs and enrichment programs, the first of which, the Black Cardboard Project, went up as an after-school enrichment program last semester at Urbana High School. It was really successful. We had, on average, at least 30 kids per week, and I worked with the entire cast of their production of Newsies, along with some people that were new to the arts. So we've been operating for about 2 years, coming up on 2 years. I think officially we opened in May last year. And it's been a great journey. We have secured a spot as the regional sponsor for the National August Wilson Monologue Competition that we will be bringing to Champaign-Urbana in 2021, which is, I'm overjoyed about that because that means so much to the area and the surrounding areas, Danville and Rantoul, and as far as Hoopston. It will give everyone the chance to experience a different side of the arts that they generally are not going to be accustomed to seeing in the current setup. So that's it.
Hi, I'm Kate Insolia, and I opened up the Urbana Dance Company officially September 4th of last year. Our studio has children's classes and adult programming as well. Every night of the week, there's adult classes for adults. And we also host events. So our big event right now is we have a Latin dance night, and we have a blues swing 50-50, and every time we have about 80 to 100 people come to these events right here in Urbana, right on Main Street. It's a total joy to have people together and dancing and doing attention out activities together. You can just notice community in a very joyful way. Yeah, my studio also has, so it's a dance studio, but also we have a commitment to youth and young people, eliminating racism and thinking about indigenous people. I'm also Lakota Indian. I know my dad's white, my mom's Lakota Indian, my grandfather's from the Lower Bree Reservation, so I have a long-standing commitment to my people, and all people, actually. So while it's a dance studio, we also have programming that is, for example, I led an Allies to Muslim support group, and I lead a Native support group, different groups to think about our community and the safety of our community and the health of our community. So that's what we do. For example, at my events, they're all alcohol-free, partly because alcohol has really destroyed my community. So that's been interesting to have an event where 100 people come, even though there's no alcohol. So I was surprised, like, oh no, but I don't want to cave there. So that's what I do. That's my thing.
We give out now $80,000 in arts grant support annually to artists, ensembles, nonprofits, businesses, any sort of group that would like to do arts for the public. So what we ask is that it takes place within the city of Urbana, and that whatever it is presented free and open to the public. At least the portions that we are funding are largely free and open to the public. And so we have funded things like concerts, big maker fairs. We've funded theater productions and television shows and all kinds of different sorts of individual exhibitions, as well as big collective programs. In this room, I can think of course, our support of Boneyard Arts Festival. We've had also support for CU Folk and Roots, Pygmalion Music Festival. Downtown, you might have seen things like First Fridays. All of these sorts of programs have received often support through that grant program. So we just closed a cycle, but our hope is to open that grant cycle usually late fall. And what we'll do is we usually accept applications through the beginning of the year, and then we jury those. So we also have opportunities for folks who might want to serve as a juror to be part of our juries, which are sort of closed juries. They meet together and they determine who our award winners, our grant winners are that year. And then once that period is done, for our Tier 3 grants, these are new, our tiers, we've got kind of small, medium, and large grants, but Tier 3s are $5,000 to $10,000. Those are our largest grants. Those are actually determined directly from our Arts Commission. So those are done through public meetings, and you can, of course, be a part of that as well. So there are lots of opportunities, but of course opportunities to apply. It's an online application. We're not going to switch up the application too much. So if you want to check out what we ask for, all of that information is currently on our website under Urbana Arts Grants. You can find both a copy of the application and a listing of this year's winners and last year's winners if you'd like to see. I often get the question of what types of things do you fund? This is asked of any granting organization. What types of things do you tend to fund? And for us, it's a joy to be able to say there is no type of thing that we tend to fund. What we really like to do is fund a diversity of projects each and every year. So you can find really anything from a small theater production to a large-scale festival to somebody's poetry writing to something else. What we want to do is make sure it's shared with the public. And so that is what we tend to look for. And I give a series of grants workshops leading up to those applications being due. So there's numerous opportunities. I think last year I did about 8 workshops that were free and open to the public for people to attend if they were interested in applying to learn about best practices in grant writing and what we tend to look for in our application. And I'll just mention briefly our other grant that we offer as part of this program is Arts in the Schools. And that particularly is an arts education initiative to fund projects that take place in Urbana School District. So last year, for instance, we funded 3 projects. One was a sort of hip-hop beat making and recording in Urbana High School. We had one that was a landscape architecture project where students actually helped design an outdoor arts classroom. And then we had another that was funding Capoeira Angola, the Afro-Brazilian martial art, in the different elementary schools. This year, we're currently, and it's in the process of wrapping up, funding an artist in residency program with printmaker Lisa Kessler at Urbana High School. And that will actually end with an exhibition at City Hall throughout the summer, so you can see some of the works that the students created with Lisa's guidance. But I wanted to alert you to that because these are wonderful opportunities if you yourself or anyone you know would like to apply for some funding and support through the arts program and then work with us to really elevate those programs as much as we can in the downtown. And I'm going to pass it to Will to talk about business development grants.
Yeah, so in addition to all the different arts grants that we have, the City of Urbana also has a business grant program where new and expanding businesses located in the downtown area, more or less, as well as Cunningham Avenue, can get up to a $3,000 business grant. We try to make the process as streamlined as possible. I think there's a minimum amount of paperwork. You do have to have at least a year-long commitment on a lease to be eligible, but other than that, really the other main requirement is that you have to be open. And there's some free business counseling that the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, provides that you're required to do. But other than that, it's a pretty straightforward process. We have it highly utilized, usually on a year-to-year basis. There's a dozen or more businesses that receive these grants. I think multiple of the businesses here today have received them. So it's a great program that we have. We have some redevelopment incentive programs if you want to open up business and have some additions to the property as well. But yeah, I think we're all ready. We got all food, so I'll just give it back to the panel.
All right, so I'm going to encourage you to give these folks sort of another round of applause, just sort of welcoming us back, bringing our attention back to the room. Yay. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to hop back into this panel, and what I've asked each of them to answer is to really think about what do they feel their particular business is bringing to the uniqueness of the Urbana art scene, and what kind of elaborating on what's their mission, what's the direction they plan to go forward with their business. So does anyone want to start? Can I start with you, Charlie?
So the Rose Bowl right now, the Rose Bowl Tavern, which is across the street from the Courier Cafe, now with the new ownership, which we got the place on March 1st of 2019. We're musician-owned and run. The staff is the previous bartenders that had worked there for between 3 and 7 years. And something, I think, us being musician-owned and programmed and run is something that's unique to the downtown scene. It's maybe a bit nuanced for people that are attending events or indulging in the concert, so to speak. You may not know how or why that's providing a unique experience. And I don't necessarily think it's better. It just provides something different, it being run by performers and music creators. I think you could deduce what the nuanced differences are. So when we hire a band, we know vivaciously what it's like to go through all of the things they're going to go through in order to get there to put on the performance. So we've been doing things like making sure almost every day that the sound system is ready for when the show arrives. We have a drum set that is in the venue, so bands don't have to bring their own drum set. We have a bass amp in the venue. So there's these little things that sort of streamline the process for musicians to show up and make music. You may not know this, but it's not a very high-paying profession. So every little thing that we can provide to make it easier, as every profession, every minute counts, every bit of mental energy counts. So if it's just a little easier in these subtle ways, it's maybe more enjoyable, or at least then you can, take the time to do your laundry or something. Sorry. Sure. Okay, so the Rose Bowl, I believe, opened in the 40s, and then sometime in the 50s, and there's, if you stop by the Rose Bowl and wait a couple minutes, someone will come in that has stories for you. It opened in the 40s, sometime in the 50s. Who was the custodian bought it, and he was a guitar player and led a band, Sonny Norman, whose photo's on the back wall behind the stage. And then, so there's a tradition of it being musician-owned and run. And his band played 6 nights a week, and they closed on Monday when him and his family went to their lake house in Shelbyville, I believe. And then one of his barflies that loved him, the old owner, Steve Campbell, bought it in 1995. And then Steve Campbell essentially sought us out to purchase it in March. And it was the home of country music from Sonny Norman, and that's what he did. So he owned the bar, and his band played, and they did country music because that was his creative endeavor. When Steve Campbell got it, he is not a musician, but he loved it. So sort of a museum to what Sonny Norman had done. Now, Steve sort of had the wherewithal, knowing that this is something he loved, but it has to change over time to be to live on. So now he hired. No, I own it. To have it live on in our own way. Myself and one of my partners, Sam Payne, have run the Urbana Hootenanny there we just celebrated a 7-year anniversary of the Hootenanny. I work with the CU Folk and Roots Festival. Martin Stromberg has put on shows at the Iron Post and around town for over 5 years now. And aesthetically, it's the same. We're still doing a lot of country music because it would be, the nitty-gritty is it would be silly to mess with such a coherent branding. It's just like, we're just set up for it, but we're doing lots of other stuff. We have the inaugural karaoke on Friday. We had a Timbaloo salsa band, which is playing this Saturday, at the Urbana Get Down, and plays often at the dance company. we had them play. We have a band I perform in, Zekabom, which is a Brazilian sort of reggae funk band. So we're doing country music, but we're doing a lot more and trying to get more people in and have it be a place where there is music created and it's not necessarily this or that. It's sort of a thing. You can stop in and maybe on a certain night you don't love that style, but you can try again the next night and you can try again. And I encourage you to. Yeah, so that's what's going on at the Rose Bowl right now.
Yes. Wow, uniqueness. So the idea store that's kind of what we specialize in. From day to day, we never know what we're going to have, and our customers never know what they're going to see. So that's, we have a wide variety of stuff. And one of the primary parts of our mission is to keep stuff out of the landfill. It's all over the news how much plastic is in the ocean and how recycling is, China's not taking recycling now. So a lot of stuff is just going into landfills and the ocean and whatever. And we really want people to be able to turn that into art. The volume of stuff we get from just the Champaign-Urbana area is staggering. We have to take donation breaks we're trying to do it every quarter or so, because people just accumulate all this stuff in their house, and it's moving season right now, so we get overwhelmed. But the great thing about that for the community is we have if you need a pencil or 1,000 pencils or 10,000 pencils, you do not have to go to Staples to get them. You can come to us. And one of the things I love about running the Idea Store is talking to people. Kate just told me that she gets all of her supplies from the Idea Store. It's not just visual arts that we support. It's dance, it's music, it's acting, it's teaching and learning. And pretty much, and we encourage people to consider creative applications of, for example, the 5 pounds of bottle caps you can get from us. You can make a tabletop, you can make a necklace, whatever. And as we move forward and spread our wings in Urbana a little bit, one of the things that we're super looking forward to doing is offering classes and workshops, which is something that we have done in the past, and we took a break from it to get this move and change underway. But we're really looking forward to going back to that and engaging more with the community in that way.
So when I had the idea for a Dose Foundation, I did a lot of looking and research to see who had done something like it and how would they've been successful, and I didn't find anybody. I didn't find any program. I looked high and low, nationwide. I found whispers of other programs that could maintain their longevity, but nobody could really tell me, well, this is how we do this and this is how it goes. In addressing the inequity involved in the theater community, I love theater. I love it. I really, really love it. I believe it's this wonderful living thing that bridges great divides and it causes for people from different backgrounds to exchange power, which is simply just information and stories with one another. I think it's a wonderful tool to heal, and I think that it's something that should be a part of every educational process. I deal with high school age kids, and there's a lot of physiological and emotional strain that they're under. When you add in marginalization and cultural differences. It just kind of, it weighs it down. And I think that theater is a way to give them tools to navigate different social situations, along with gaining a level of confidence in themselves to just be. And I think that's the wonderful, beautiful thing about theater. It allows people to just be. And so, with that said, you know, there aren't any hard numbers for Champaign-Urbana. There are for our nearest larger theater mecca, which is Chicago. The Actors Equity Association released a report through the Chicago Tribune, I believe it was October 25th, 2017. So Chicago's demographic is 30% white, 30% black African American, 30% Hispanic, and a smattering of a lot of different other cultures and ethnicities. On the stage, it's 90% white. Backstage, when we're talking about producers and things like that, the disparity is even greater. The Jeff Awards, their voting body that gives awards, less than 5% of that voting class is non-white. This is something that is evident at the regional, national, and international level. And I think that as a people, we rob ourselves when we don't have representation. There are stories that are not being heard. There's a completely different world that we're not seeing. And Dose Foundation looks to cast a light on that while allowing children from different demographics, underserved populations, to walk into this beautiful art form. And not just the business on stage, but the business off stage. I think there are a lot of kids that would say, hey, I'd like to be a script supervisor, if they knew that that's something that they could do. And so we seek to empower them by giving them different options. And people that have options are less likely to fall into a depth of frustration because they have different ways to express that. And I deal with kids whose very identities after a certain age are being formed through trauma. Through trauma. Not what they do, but reacting to what's done to them. And, you know, here's an interesting story. During the Black Cardboard Project, there's an improv exercise that I run where I pair off the kids, and it's active listening, but they have to act too. So for the first 5 minutes, one student listens to the other student tell a very personal story. And then the next 5 minutes goes the other way around. Then each person has to reenact the person telling them that story for the whole class. One of my students, 2 years ago, their brother was killed. Last winter, their other brother was killed. In February, their brother-in-law was shot dead. And speaking with his mother, he had not spoken to her about it, had not dealt with it in any kind of way. Great kid, bottled up, nowhere to put that energy. And he told this story to his partner. And by telling it that way, it gave him the opportunity to step back and see someone else tell his story in his voice, to be heard. And I think that my dream for the Urbana arts community is that we get opportunities to do that a lot more, that we create a culture of doing that, of sharing, finding one another, learning one another, creating with one another. And part of the program is these kids have to devise work with people that they've never really had a conversation with, from completely different backgrounds, all for the good of making something to show that speaks to all of them. So many different parts for one common goal. And it's a beautiful thing to behold.
Okay, thank you. I liked hearing your thoughts. So let's see what the question is, the uniqueness to our community. Or, okay. Okay.
What can you share with us?
So let's see. So my dance studio, similar to what Kevin does, we do similar things, but with dance. And, the kids that come to my classes, are targeted by racism and lots of different hard times, poverty. And they get a chance to talk about it and dance it out and create dances they have to do with their lives. So that's my creative movement classes. That's what I call them. I call them creative movement for young people. And I have a teens moves class. And those classes, you do learn dance technique and stuff like that, but it's a lot of opportunity for the young people to get to play with each other and share their lives with each other and work on hard things. I mean, they all come and they talk about, they're scared of school. They're scared they're going to get shot. They're scared of lots of things. And so it's a place where we get to work on their fears. They get a chance to, we have a stuffed frog. But instead of beating up on each other, let's get mad at the frog, we do, and the frog, and it brings them all together instead of targeting each other, right? You get into a classroom, and it's always the girls start beating up on each other, the two black kids start beating up on each other. It's well, let's not gang up on each other. Let's take all of our places where we've been hurt and get it out. So we make these really beautiful dances, and people get to share their stories, but through dance. And I love dance. I love it with all my heart. I love art with all my heart. And I believe that everybody's an artist. I believe everybody in this room is an artist and creativity is a great place to innovate and problem solve. And we've got a lot of interesting problems to solve in our time right now. We have climate change. We have the earth, thinking about caring for the earth. We have violence, poverty. We have all these things that we want to solve in our communities. And backing young people's creativity and their own minds and their own innovations is a great way to help them, to give them support to problem solve, because they're thinking about all these things. They're thinking about racism. They're thinking about the earth. This one kid came, he's like, I'm so scared, we're gonna burn up in flames. And he's scared about things he hears on the news. So it's a place where we get to, what I always remind the young people is you're in charge, you're powerful, there's nothing wrong with your mind. You've got this amazing mind, and I wanna back it, and I wanna back your thinking, and we're gonna do it together. I'm not gonna leave you alone. You're not alone, So that's kind of what my studio, so it's not, that's what we do. And it's awesome. I love seeing what they come up with and how they get to build relationships with each other and build their confidence. So they build So kind of my tagline is I want them to build relationships with themselves and with each other. To have strong sense of self and have a strong sense of being able to have relationships with other people. So we're not alone, so we can do things together. We're all in this together. Everybody in this room, we're all in it together. So, and I do that through dance and the arts. And I also, let's see. So, yeah, and I also wanted my studio not just to be for, young people, because I'm an adult and I like to have fun. And I need to do things that keep my attention on why I'm alive. What are joyful things to do? And I love dancing. So it's just our adult classes are super fun. We have, adults can go and they can get their minds off of whatever your worries are and have a good time dancing and being with each other. Yeah, so we have, so I have, let's see, so we have a Latin dance night on Monday nights. So we teach salsa, cumbia, different Latin dance forms, and then we have a social afterwards. On Tuesday nights, we have an Israeli dance class that's taught by this awesome Brazilian Jewish woman who's spent a lot of time in Israel. And I teach a contemporary class, and my contemporary class is very much reflective of being Lakota Indian and being white, those two heritages coming together. And we do a lot of work on thinking about our bodies and the environment, and there's that class. And then on Wednesdays, it's hip hop, and we'll be having break dancing, so it's a lot of African heritage art forms. on Wednesday nights, and Thursdays belly dance, and yeah. And then on Fridays, usually we have events. So we have a Latin dance night. And I'm telling you, like 100 people will come. It's crazy. I don't know how it happens every time. I'm like, how are there 100 people here? And then we have a swing and blues event. And I want to do more. I want to have different events. I'd love to host a powwow too. So anyway, so that's my studio. So those are things I think about, and it's backing people in the arts, backing people's creativity, and helping people back their minds to be innovative and creative in the world, to solve problems and enjoy the earth. And I love the idea store because I'm totally into thinking about having I would love my studio to be a zero waste place. I don't know how to do that yet, but it's a goal to be zero waste. And also my tagline, backing Indigenous leadership and Native American people. So that's like, so my long-term goal would be for it to, in a way, be a cultural center for Indigenous peoples and all people to be able to come and partake and be part of the community through the arts. There you have
For the
it.
sake of time, I'm going to invite each of them to share more with you about where you can learn more information about each of these businesses. So website information or any upcoming events you might want to share, and then you can start, and then you'll make your way back to me, and then I'll have the microphone at the end. That's how this will work.
Okay.
So why don't you start?
So where we can find the information. So I have a Facebook page. You have to actually type the Urbana Dance Company, because if you type Urbana Dance Company, for some reason. So I have a Facebook page. I also have a website. It's urbanadancecompany.com. Very simple. And it has a list of all of our events, our classes, our philosophies, and I have an interview series. I interview different artists in town. Yeah. And our events, we have events, usually they're ramping up to almost being every weekend. They're being a fun way, all ages events can bring families. And Latin dance night is Saturday from 8 to midnight. You can bring, all ages. They're really fun. And there's a beginning lesson. So if you don't know, you can come and learn. Like 50% of the people don't know how to Latin dance and show up. And they still stay and they like practice. And I make sure everybody gets a chance. The ones that are very skilled, I make sure they dance with everyone else. So, yeah. Okay.
So we have a Facebook page, Dose Foundation. There's an Instagram and Twitter page, just Dose Foundation, everywhere, DOSE Foundation. We're working on a website right now. Our next event would be, we're going to do a 6-week version of the Black Cardboard Project at Urbana High School for the fall. I'll be having some artist friends of mine come over and come down and work with the kids. After that, we'll be leading to a summer intensive, which will be open to the area at large, kids age 13 through 18. That'll be next summer. Let's see, is there anything else? We've been partnering with Cranard, which has been really, really great. I was able to take some kids who had never been on a stage before, backstage for one of their larger productions, and we took them to a show on the weekend. So we're going to be doing some more of that during the next round of our classes. So that's about it.
So we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram just search the Idea Store, you'll find us. That's where to find the most recent information about us. We do have a website also. It's the-idea-store.org. I think our next, we are currently still very focused on our store, so the best way to get to know about us is to come visit us in our store. We are in the former Art Mart location in Lincoln Square, if you know where that is. Most people do. And I think our next event is not till June 13th. We'll be doing Pride Crafts at the Urbana Free Library that evening, I think from 7 to 9 p.m.
Facebook, right? Facebook. Don't have a website yet, working on that. There are posters everywhere. I'm trying to make sure there's posters everywhere. I don't know if you've seen them. If you haven't seen them, let me know where you're hanging out, and I'll make sure they end up there. We did just print a bunch of schedules. I brought some. I don't know if there's enough for everybody. There's definitely not. So if you want one, Rachel can give you one. But come to the Rose Bowl. You have to come in person. It seems like the general age demographic here, people still understand that. Younger people maybe don't remember. They have to go places to learn about it. Myself included, I'm guilty. I'm like on the cusp, But that's what I'd say. Events-wise, Tuesdays are there's a euchre game that goes on. Tuesdays starts at 7 o'clock. Free pool, it's sort of our game night. And then every other night, Wednesday nights there's trivia and a happy hour music. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, we have concerts. Probably half and half are free admission. That's it. Yeah.
So I want to invite us all to give them one more round of applause. Fantastic. We're so privileged to have so many new and wonderful businesses opening up in Urbana, but particularly a growing, vibrant art scene. And in so many ways that's made possible through the different projects that are happening here, but also in many of the businesses that you partake in already. So if you haven't made it out to one of these businesses, I encourage you to try your hand with dance, try your hand at some theater production, go to a live show, go to the idea store, and find supplies for your latest art project. There's a lot going on here, and we're so proud to be able to be the home of so many businesses like these, especially those that also see the arts as a real site of healing and social improvement and looking to make the world a better place. And I'm really proud to have these four up here with me today. So we do have a little bit of time for questions from you all. So I would love to invite any other questions that you might have, and I can walk around with the microphone. So don't be shy.
Not so much as a question, but thank you. You think of art as a universal language that crosses barriers, and it's very evident from some of the things that were said here today. That's exactly what's happening. So thank you very much for making our community a better place.
Thank you. Other questions or comments?
And I thank you too. I did want to comment that one of the best things about this panel, makes me feel good about this town, and I helped create the internet, so no one goes out anymore, no one talks to anybody face to face anymore, and I've been worrying at the end of my career how to fix that. And all of these things, you have to go, you have to be there now, in person, face to face. And that's wonderful, and that's what living in a town should be like. So, this is crucial. And by the way, I read every week about loneliness. People aren't lonely when they're doing what you guys are doing. So, yes, please, more.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Had time for one or two more comments if anybody would like, or a question. You want to know anything more about these businesses? Oh, I see some hands. Okay.
So I love garage sailing. Noah or Jerry over here. And so my question is for the Idea Store, because you can always find stuff anywhere, somewhere. What's the greatest challenge for you on, because I don't know, do you turn away donations? I mean, what's the greatest challenge for you when taking donations?
The sheer volume is a great challenge for us. Trying to decide if we get recently we don't do a lot of food containers, for example, because of all sorts of issues. A lot of times they're just not clean, but sometimes, like recently, somebody had been saving, the Talenti gelato. It's got like it's in a plastic container with a screw-on cap. Somebody had been saving those for, I don't know. I'm not going to judge how much gelato they, yeah, maybe it's a week. But, right? But normally it's something we wouldn't take, but they had dozens and dozens of them, and we decided, well, can we use this item? Can we keep this out of the recycling where it's probably going to go to a landfill or worse, if it can't be recycled, or do we decide, okay, we've got enough of this, we can sell it. So making decisions like that on the fly is pretty challenging. We do turn away donations sometimes. Usually, if they're items that are more appropriate for another thrift store, say clothes, bedding, stuff like that, and there's another place for them to go. Generally, we used to be very particular about donations because we were in a much smaller space and our constraints were, we were still very constrained for space, but now we tend to err on the side of good relationships with our donors and say thank you, and try to find a home for everything that gets donated to us.
Now, there are some items that people shouldn't donate, right?
Yes. Yes, I can, and that's a good time for me to once again direct you to our website. On the donation tab under donate materials, we have a pretty comprehensive donation guide, and at the end of it, there's a list of things we don't take and also a list of questions you should ask yourself before deciding to bring us something. I don't have all those questions memorized, but so things like aerosols we can't take, clothing and bedding, stuff that would ordinarily go to Habitat, Salt and Light, Goodwill. Alas, Connections, you may have heard, is closing, our next door neighbors, so we can't direct people there anymore. So that kind of thing we don't accept. We have a few exceptions to the no food rule, or no food containers rule, but generally, like if it's a household recyclable, like 2-liter bottles, stuff like that, we have to draw the line somewhere. And so we have some constraints there. As far as questions to ask yourself, has it been stored outside? Then we probably can't deal with it. We have a lot of great volunteers, one of whom is in this room, and they do so much work for us. We could not live without them, but we just don't have the human power to wash every single thing. Another question to ask yourself is it culturally insensitive? We throw stuff away if it is because we can end that cycle in our store. So even though stuff with the chief on it might be super popular in other thrift and antique stores, we get rid of it. So that's another thing just to think about when donating to us.
Any other questions? Charlie, I thought I saw your hand go up. No, okay. Anyone else? Charlie's got a question. The other Charlie's got a question.
I heard about your event on Saturday, and I heard it was amazing. And I was thinking you could tell us about that, because it sounded unique having dance as a casual, performed sort of nightlife thing rather than a uppity.
Right, wasn't that? Yeah, it was awesome. It was probably one of my favorite events we did. It was a light show with Matt Harsh. He did some lights, and a bunch of DJs came in from out of town, most out of town DJs, and then local dancers, me, Alessandra Rosario, Denzel, and Jalen, and Chloe. So dancers from the university and local dancers, and it was just a chill event. We had like blankets out. We had places to sit, and people would just sit and watch this stage kind of area light show and sit for hours, and you could go into the light area, and then you could just dance all of your story, your personal story, and then you would leave, and everybody was invited to go and just be in the middle and just dance their story and then leave. It was almost like a cleanse. It was an installation. It got deep. But it was chill. It was super chill. It went from like 8 to midnight, and people just came. People were lying down on the blankets, just watching. No alcohol served again. But it was cool. It was awesome. So we're gonna have more of those. We're gonna do another one in June. I would love to do a monthly thing and work with other artists and other just backing artists to make art and do it together as a community and make it chill. Chill is good. Is it called Spectrums? Yeah. Is that Mark's? Yeah, Matt's. Thank you. It was fun. Yeah, do stuff together.
All right, I just want to encourage us all to give them one more round of applause.